Cooler Master is confident that they have broken the code on small form factor gaming PC cases, with claims of accommodating GPUs like the RTX 4090 and providing enough cooling for the Intel Core i9 and Ryzen 9 processors. We're left wondering if Cooler Master has an icy patron feeding them cooling powers from the shadow, or if there's something else arcane going on here. We're about to find out more as we look at the NCore 100 Max from Cooler Master right now, right here on Robeytech. We love PC builds of all shapes and sizes around here, but we love seeing new and different designs, especially if those designs solve a particular problem for PC builders. Take, for example, mini builds. If you have giant hands, big components, and parts that generate a ton of heat, you're going to have a bad time. Or in some cases, your PC case might actually catch on fire. Sorry, NZXT-H1. So when Cooler Master came to the table with a mini PC case bragging about a smaller desktop footprint than a Mac Mini and the right mix of internal space, as well as cooling to handle the highest performing components on the market, we knew we had to build in it. Enter the Cooler Master NCore 100 Max. This $400 PC case makes some really bold claims about its cooling, its simplicity to build, and its overall performance. We're going to put all of those claims to the test, but I'm going to tell you this up front, it's cooler than we thought in some ways, but not so in others. The NCore 100 Max is available in two different colors, and neither of them are black or white. It's a small thing, but I'm actually kind of excited about it. It comes in dark gray, which is technically the standard model that retails for $399.99, and the bronze edition, which, from everything we've seen, is $1 billion. Actually, it's the same price as the dark gray one. As far as dimensions go, the NCore 100 Max is 6.1 inches or 155 millimeters deep, 8.35 inches or 212 millimeters wide, and just under 19 inches or 481 millimeters tall. And that is in normal mode. Wait, there are modes? Yes, there is the expansion mode. The NCore 100 Max packs a little bit more depth than in normal mode. The configuration puts the case at 6.77 inches or 172 millimeters deep, 8.35 inches or 212 millimeters wide, and just under 19 inches or 481 millimeters tall. So normal mode is like pre-holiday feasting, and expansion mode is like post-holiday feasting. No shame here, guys. 'Twas the season to be jolly. As far as external I/O and controls, the NCore 100 Max has Cooler Master's iconic power switches, 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A ports, 1 USB 3.2 Gen 2x2 Type C port, and a combined audio/mic port. So for a small case, that really is enough front I/O. I just wish they had easier names to recite. Seriously, they're like tongue twisters. Whether in expanded or normal mode, the NCore 100 Max supports mini ITX motherboards. And that's it. It's super simple here. It's mini ITX or nothing. As for GPUs, this is where the expanded girth comes into play. In normal mode, the NCore 100 Max fits most GPUs that fill 3 PCIe slots. That's pretty impressive on paper, and yes, we absolutely tried it, and we'll talk about it more a little bit later, but we fit an RTX 4090 from PNY in this bad boy, and we didn't need to expand it at all. That is a feat of engineering right there, but the NCore isn't done. When in expanded mode, Cooler Master says that it can house GPUs that will fill 3.9 PCIe slots. Too bad it couldn't get to 4. That's some triple C thick business right there. Not only that, but in both modes, because GPUs are mounted in an upright position, the NCore 100 Max can fit GPUs up to 356 millimeters in length after some adjustments. Without messing around with changing the case, the limit is 336 millimeters. As for cooling, Cooler Master says it's literally in our name. Let us take care of that. So I guess that's what we're gonna have to do. And what you need to take care of is slapping that subscribe button, whipping that like button, and ringing that notification bell so that you don't miss videos like this right here on Robeytech. And honestly, I can't do that for you, so you're gonna have to take care of that. Just hit it, just slap it. Okay, back to the NCore 100 Max. Now the NCore 100 Max has 120 millimeter fans positioned at the case rear, and for the CPU cooling, it has 120 millimeter AIO ready to rock. This AIO does have a slightly thicker 38 millimeter or roughly 1.5 inch rad that is served by a custom fan. As for PSU, Cooler Master again said, let us take care of it, even though we couldn't find power supply in their name anywhere, though they do make really nice SFX power supplies. Now the NCore 100 Max has an 850 watt SFX power supply that supports ATX 3.0 standards. In other words, it has the native connections for RTX 40 series GPUs. If you're leaning more towards Team Red, don't worry, it has cables for Radeon GPUs as well, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. As for drive mounts, the NCore 100 Max has space for one 2.5 inch SSD. That's it. This is not gonna be a NAS build. Okay, give it up. Now, this is where the true test comes in. Because this is an ITX system, we're gonna need to test this in isolation from the rest of our case benchmarks. And because Cooler Master made some bold claims about what could work inside of an NCore 100 Max, we're gonna put them to the test with an Intel Core i9 13900K and the Ryzen 9 7950X inside. We're gonna use identical RAM and storage from Kingston, the same RTX 4090 GPU from PNY, as well as motherboards that are counterparts to one another, the Asus ROG Strix B660-i and B650E-i gaming Wi-Fi respectively. Okay, let's talk about the numbers and then we'll break down some things we saw along the way. While idling, we saw the Core i9 13900K average 39 degrees Celsius on the CPU and 31 degrees on the GPU. In our AMD build, the Ryzen 9 7950X averaged 53 degrees on our CPU and 32 degrees on our GPU. That's a bit balmy inside the NCore, but it's not terrible. Under heavy CPU load, this is where things got squirrely. The Ryzen 9 held lower CPU average temps at 95 degrees Celsius because that's the TJ Max on the CPU, while the Core i9 averaged 99 degrees Celsius. I'm seeing a pattern here. Listen, we know these things run hot, but those numbers right there are showing these processors are hitting their limits. When we looked into the data just a bit deeper, because we're not surfacey type folks here, the Core i9 and Ryzen 9 were slammed up against the thermal max and we could see clear pictures of extreme thermal throttling. And we're not talking about momentary hiccups, we're talking about 30 to 40 second gaps for it to cool down, then ramp up, catch up, only to get slammed right back down again. Honestly, that's not a great picture, but this is a very abusive test. Now in our gaming benchmarks, we ran all of our tests at 4K since this is what the hardware was designed for. The Core i9 averaged 82 degrees Celsius on the CPU and the GPU averaged around 55 degrees Celsius. The Ryzen 9 fared a bit better with an average of 81 degrees on the CPU and 50 degrees Celsius on the GPU. Those numbers were collected with the NCore 100 Max case closed, but with it open during gaming, we saw temperature averages drop by 5 to 8 degrees Celsius. That's not an insignificant number, but it does tell us that the NCore 100 Max does struggle to manage the heat of some of those hotter components. So are Cooler Master's claims true? Can it run these components with stellar performance? For a time, maybe. Gaming was fine for the most part, but if you're doing anything intensive, you may want to think about it again. To be honest, guys, if you're looking for a great CPU to put in on the AMD side, you're looking at a Ryzen 7 7800X 3D, which we think will be okay, and then a Intel Core i7 13700K if it's set to stock Intel settings. Okay, now that we've talked about what it is and how it performs, let's talk about building inside of the NCore 100 Max. Some things we've discovered and some things we're talking about. Overall, this case was really straightforward, but I wouldn't say it was overly simplistic. There are some complexities to consider when choosing parts that you're putting inside of it, especially if you start considering GPU length. For example, the NCore 100 Max can, as Cooler Master claims, support RTX 4090 GPUs. However, we have to be especially conscious of the length of the card. Remember, we're looking at GPUs up to 336 millimeters or 356 millimeters. That means all of the ROG 4090s are out. The RS 4090s are out. Zotac's Gaming 4090, guess what? It does fit in there, but that's kind of the biggest you can get. Now, this does leave Asus TUF Gaming, Gigabyte's WindForce and Aero, MSI Ventus /Supreme/Slim Gaming. The Gaming X Trio we think is on the bubble, and PNY's XLR8 4090, which of course we used in our build. Technically, you could use a Founders Edition 4090 in the NCore 100 Max, if you could find one. Again, this isn't a huge issue here, and it's pretty common in ITX builds to have to be conscious of component sizes. But again, if you're looking for just a no-brainer, PNY and Zotac and Founders Edition, for sure, we got in here. However, if you're trying to build in this case, it's not going to be very forgiving if the 4090s available to you are the ones that don't fit. What if you're not going for a 4090? What if you wanted to use a Radeon GPU? The dimension rules apply here as well, but you've got an added challenge. That's running cables. Out of the box, the NCore 100 Max has the NVIDIA power cable pre-installed and routed for us. While the 8-pin cables do come with the system, you're gonna need to be able to get into tight spaces to unplug and plug in the needed cables. Since the cable lengths for this build are very specific, you're gonna need to do some pre-planning for your cable runs. The good news is, you're not gonna have to install fans or figure out how to mount an AIO, and the rest of this is pretty much cake. It's very easy to build in if you're doing a 40 series card. The toolless mechanism inside the case help with breaking it down for reassembly, but you're gonna have to do a bit of disassembly to be able to get everything situated and plugged in all right. But all of this is part of the fun of doing an ITX build. It's like a giant Lego set that can cut you and make you bleed. Makes you feel like you're alive. I said this at the beginning and it's worth repeating. We love cases that try to solve problems. And honestly, we do think that the Cooler Master NCore 100 Max does do that. but it also creates some problems with their claims. The problem that it creates is an expectation that the hottest, both literally and figuratively, parts will perform well within this chassis, and it doesn't quite hit that mark, at least as far as we saw. However, it does do a few things that are praiseworthy. Thing one is that by expanding the panel, it makes space for thicker GPUs, but it's optional. While I don't see GPUs getting slimmer in the next generation, it's nice to know that the NCore 100 Max has the ability to make some extra room should you need it with those stretchy pants. Thing two, like its predecessor, the NR200P Max, this provides a foolproof entry point for the world of mini ITX builds. Sure, we've seen other cases do this, like the NZX TH1, but out of the box, you have everything you need without hoping that your PSU or fans or AIO will fit inside of this PC case that you choose to build in. Now, you do pay for it up front in the cost of the case, which honestly, if you add up all the parts, the price comes out well, but you get the peace of mind that it's all going to work together. So where does that leave us? We like the NCore 100 Max. It's visually interesting, the color choices are a nice change from the usual black and white cases, and it really does have a super small footprint. We just can't recommend using the highest tier CPUs inside of it, and we're a little disappointed that Cooler Master said you could. If you are going to build in this one, we recommend stepping down to CPUs like the Ryzen 7 7800X3D or Intel's Core i7-14700K on stock Intel settings. These are still amazing processors, and they would likely set the rest of NCore's cooling components up for success. As for GPUs, I think we can hand it to Cooler Master on this one. Our RTX 4090 fit and performed stunningly. These were our impressions of Cooler Master's NCore 100 Max, but we want to know what you think. Is this your next tiny build? How would you spec one of these out for optimal performance? I'd love to know all that down in the comments below. Now, while you're down there, make sure you slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and ring that notification bell so that you get a notification each and every time we post a video like this right here on Robeytech. And if you're gonna build a mini ITX build, please head over to discord.gg/Robeytech. Talk to our team there. We have amazing people who love to discuss these kind of things. And you know what? You might just make a friend. Also, you can follow @Robeytech absolutely everywhere. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.